All right, so let's dive into this whole TikTok thing. It seems like everyone's talking about it, and we've got a ton of articles.
It's definitely a hot topic right now.
We've got this potential ban in the US,
Mm.
and everyone wants to know what it means, especially for Spanish-speaking audiences.
Right. And we've even got some sources from InfoBay to give us that Latin American perspective.
Exactly. So let's get into it. One of the articles mentioned that TikTok has over 170 million users just in the US. That's a lot of people.
It really is. And it just goes to show how huge this platform has become, especially in Spanish-speaking communities.
That's like a cultural phenomenon at this point.
Absolutely.
So how did we even get here? Like, how did TikTok become this center of attention?
Well, it's kind of a perfect storm, you could say. You've got
Right.
this backdrop of tension between the US and China.
Right.
And TikTok, because its parent company ByteDance is Chinese, gets caught in the crosshairs.
So the U.S. government's basically saying, hey, we're worried about security.
Exactly. They're
Mm.
concerned about data privacy and the possibility of China accessing user information.
But TikTok is pushing back hard.
Oh, yeah. They're saying, hold on, there's no evidence of data misuse, and they're arguing this ban is a violation of free speech.
It's that classic security versus free speech debate, but on a global scale now?
And it's got real consequences. I mean, the Supreme Court just upheld this ban.
So what does that mean? Like, is TikTok going to vanish from app stores?
Well, that's the big question, unless ByteDance sells it off. Yeah, it could disappear any day now.
Wow. So all this is happening just as Trump is about to take office again. And, he's a big TikTok fan.
He is. He's got millions of followers on the platform and has even hinted at wanting to negotiate a solution.
It's almost like a reality show at this point.
It really is. So we have the U.S. government worried about security, TikTok fighting for survival, and then you've got Trump potentially stepping in.
What a mess. So where does this leave TikTok users? Especially in the Spanish-speaking world. I mean, what's InfoBay's take on all of this?
Well, they're emphasizing the global implications of this whole thing. They're saying what happens in the U.S. with TikTok could create a ripple effect.
Makes sense.
Especially in Latin America, where the app is incredibly popular, we could see other countries following suit with their own regulations and restrictions.
It's not just about politics either.
Right. Oh, definitely not. Think about all those content creators, the businesses that rely on TikTok, the vibrant online communities built around it.
Exactly. What happens to them if TikTok just vanishes overnight?
It's a valid concern. It raises so many questions. Will another platform take its place? Will giants like Instagram and YouTube just absorb that audience?
It's a real turning point for social media.
It really is. And then there's ByteDance. They're not budging on selling TikTok even with tempting offers.
Why would they hold out like that?
It's tricky. One theory is that Chinese law restricts selling TikTok's algorithm, which is seen as a national treasure.
So it's more than just money.
Exactly. The algorithm is the heart of TikTok, its secret sauce. Losing that would be a huge blow.
So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
They are, trying to appease the U.S. government while also complying with Chinese regulations.
Like a high-stakes game of chess.
You got it. And the clock is ticking. They have a 90-day extension if a sale is in progress. But finding a buyer that makes both sides happy in that time frame seems almost impossible.
So what do you think? If you use TikTok, how would this ban affect you? Does security outweigh freedom of expression, or is it the other way around?
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer, and it really makes you think about data privacy in this global digital world. Where do we draw the line?
It's a debate that's not going away anytime soon, that's for sure.
Definitely not.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the TikTok saga. It's a story with a lot of moving parts and a lot of uncertainty about the future.
And it highlights the complex relationship between politics, technology, and global power dynamics in the digital age.
It's a reminder that what happens online doesn't stay online. It affects all of us. So stay tuned as we continue to follow this developing story and explore its implications in more detail.
We'll be right back after a short break. It's a real slippery slope, isn't it? Like, where does it end?
Right. It makes you wonder, could this set a precedent for how other platforms are regulated in the future?
That's the thing. These decisions about TikTok could have long-term consequences for all of us and how we interact with technology.
And, it's easy to get lost in the politics and the economics of it all, but we can't forget about the human side of this story.
Absolutely. Those InfoBay articles really drove that point home. The impact on everyday users, particularly in the Spanish-speaking world, is huge.
It really is. I mean, think about all the creators who've built entire careers on TikTok. the businesses that rely on it for marketing.
Right, and the families and friends who use it to stay connected across borders. This ban could disrupt entire communities, especially where TikTok is so ingrained in the culture.
It's like a cultural phenomenon in some places.
Exactly. And for Spanish-speaking communities especially, it's become this vital platform for connection and cultural exchange.
It makes you realize that these aren't just abstract policy debates. There are real people whose lives could be affected by this.
For sure.
Yeah.
And for Spanish speakers, TikTok has become this space where they can share their stories, their language, their traditions.
It's a platform for creativity, humor, social activism. To lose that would be a significant loss.
And it raises questions about representation and access. If TikTok disappears, will those voices be heard as loudly on other platforms?
Will they have the same opportunities to connect and build community?
It's not just about finding another app, it's about maintaining that sense of community and shared identity that's flourished on TikTok.
And let's not forget about the political landscape here in the U.S. I mean, you have this bipartisan agreement on the ban, which is rare these days.
Right, but then you've got Trump, who seems to be taking a more nuanced approach.
He's a wild card for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think he could actually use his influence to broker a deal that works for everyone?
It's hard to say. Maybe it's just political maneuvering. But his involvement definitely adds another layer of complexity.
It's like he's throwing a wrench into the whole thing.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
But it also highlights how complicated the relationship between politics and technology has become.
Governments all over the world are grappling with how to regulate these powerful platforms. And there's no easy answer.
It's this constant balancing act, trying to protect national security while also upholding freedom of expression and respecting users' rights.
It's a debate that's not going away anytime soon.
Definitely not. And it's a conversation we all need to be a part of. As this situation unfolds, it's important to stay informed.
Engage in thoughtful discussions and hold both governments and tech companies accountable.
Exactly.
It really makes you think, the digital world, it's not some separate thing. It's so intertwined with our lives.
It is. It really is. And this whole TikTok situation, it's a prime example.
Like
it brings together so many different issues.
Politics, economics, social issues, global power dynamics, you name it.
Yeah, and it forces us to ask some tough questions about data privacy and freedom of expression in the digital age.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into TikTok, let's leave you with a few things to ponder.
What does this all mean for the future? How will governments and these tech giants interact? How do we balance security and freedom in this digital world? It's complicated.
It really is. And for all of us as users, as citizens, what responsibility do we have in shaping this digital landscape?
Exactly. These are conversations we need to be having.
So here's one last thought to chew on. If TikTok does disappear from the U.S., what happens next?
Will something new pop up? Will other platforms just try to fill that void?
What will happen to those communities that thrived on TikTok? It's a question worth thinking about.
It is. And it's a reminder that this story, it's not over. The consequences will be felt for a long time.
So stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those tough questions.
That's the key.
Well, that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration into the world around us.